When Burnout 3 Takedown was released back in September of 2004, it ended up winning Game of the Year according to the official US PlayStation Magazine and the official US Xbox Magazine. By the way, that's not even just winning Best Driving Game of the Year, that's Game of the Year. You know what else came out that same year? Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. That's right, Burnout 3 beat GTA for Game of the Year in 2004. So honestly, that's all I really need to tell you about Burnout 3 Takedown, so thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the I'm just kidding. But for real, let's take a trip down memory lane together and look at what I personally feel is still the best arcade racer of all time. We also will be hearing from a very special guest very soon on their personal experience growing up with Burnout 3 and how they feel about returning back to it after all these years. I'm going to start out with talking about the pros of this game and then a few cons, which in reality, the only reason I'm bringing the cons into this is to talk about what I would love to see in a brand new Burnout if it was to be created the next few years. So let's get right into it. So once you get past the amazing intro that includes a pretty good soundtrack, which is the Lazy Generation, we get brought to the Burnout 3 menu. You get a couple options here, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You get the main single player, you get a single event, multiplayer, and your options. So if we were to jump into World Tour mode, that takes place of the typical championship mode that gives players lots of options and addicting gameplay in order to fully complete the game. It goes across 3 countries to race in, including USA, Europe, and Asia, and all feel really different from each other, and they did a really good job with the environmental designs. There's 18 tracks in total. None of them really feel the same, and all have their own unique areas that you can get these signature takedowns in, which is super fun to explore and adds a ton of replay value, which is probably one of the best parts of the game, honestly. Game modes include Burning Lap, which is basically his fastest lap, Eliminator, so with every lap, the last place person gets eliminated, Road Rage, which is my personal favorite, to get as many takedowns as possible before you crash and die, and Crash Mode, which is basically a mini game that requires you to cause as much destruction and mayhem as possible to rack up the biggest amount of property damage that you can get. It's extremely fun and it's as crazy as it sounds. But we're going to talk about Road Rage first because it is my favorite game mode. The racing and the Burning Lap, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a racing game, right? First one to get in first place to finish the race wins. Burning Lap is whoever can get through one lap the fastest is the winner. And then Eliminator essentially is race mode. It's just with a little bit higher stakes and it's a little bit longer because you actually have to do about 6 laps if you're going against 6 opponents. And then as for Road Rage, this is again my favorite mode, which does feel like a race, but it doesn't matter who gets to the end first. It actually is unlimited. You can go as long as you want. There's no set amount of laps. And the cool thing about this setup is that it's based off takedowns, which in this game, when you ram an opponent off the road, it's considered a takedown. And you get extra points for it, and you also get extra boost for it. The more takedowns you get, the bigger your boost bar becomes, and it kind of just carries on from there. The one thing I really love about this game mode is that it brings the opponents back to you over and over again, so you don't have to worry about slowing down to get them to catch up to you. Literally, as soon as you've destroyed them and sent them off the map and got a takedown, they respawn almost immediately and sometimes even spawn in front of you up the road. So it might seem kind of weird, and obviously it's arcadey, it's not realistic in any way, shape, or form, but it keeps the momentum and the flow extremely fast-paced the entire time, and that's why I absolutely love it. It's super addicting. I can't tell you how many times I've played a Road Rage race and gotten over 50 takedowns and realized I've been playing this one race for 45 minutes straight. I'm not even kidding you, it happens all the time. And that's why it is still to this day my absolute favorite game mode in any racing game ever created. When it comes to Crash Mode, I kind of elaborated on this already, but it's basically what I told you. You essentially have these mini maps, so it's a one specific area that it starts you at. You drive forward and you try to either go off a ramp or hit a specific vehicle to cause as much mayhem as possible. It sets it up in pretty unique scenarios as well, like sometimes there was one where you actually go off a corkscrew jump. You basically go off it and your car is twisting in the air and you're jumping over a giant canyon to try to reach the other side to crash into oncoming traffic. Yeah, it's as crazy as it sounds. It's almost like a Fast and Furious movie if you think of it that way. I actually do think that movie, or those movies, got a lot of inspiration from these games. And it really shows. It's a really great, fun minigame, and it's cool they implemented that into the story mode, or I won't say story mode because it's not really a story to the game, but the World Tour mode. So you have to do Crash Mode in order to advance and get specific vehicles unlocked. But it's not a chore to do. It's actually really fun. And there's a lot of replay value in that as well to get the highest score possible, and you can unlock more vehicles with doing so. And when it comes to cars, there is 67 in total, which is a huge amount of cars. They're not licensed or anything, so don't expect to see any Fords or Chevys or anything like that. But they come in different shapes and sizes, from compact, muscle, coupe, sport, super, and special, and even heavyweights to unlock throughout the World Tour with special challenges to unlock special vehicles. And some of the special challenges are actually really difficult to obtain, but in a good way. It really keeps you coming back for more, and you have to do specific things in order to get these specific special vehicles, and some of them are outright hilarious. I remember as a kid unlocking almost every car in the game, and some of them were like school buses and stuff like that. So it's not all here just to get the fastest vehicle possible. You're also looking for very strong vehicles to get the most amount of takedowns, and that's where the heavyweights and specials come into play. And the fact there was 67 cars to unlock, it just screams replay value, and there's a reason to go through and play with every different vehicle. Because every single vehicle feels fast, and they all have decent handling. Not that every car feels exactly the same, there definitely is differences between them, and you can notice them. But in terms of speed, they all feel just as fast as one another, even though obviously some are going to go quicker than some. But in the end, you can win a race with any vehicle you choose, and I really appreciate that. Even if some are meant to be heavier for easier takedowns, it doesn't mean they're going to be extremely slow and boring to play. The sense of speed is insane, even compared to today's racing games. I cannot put a finger on how they did it. It might be the way they did the motion blur. It might be the way they had the frame rate locked at a perfect 60 frames a second. I don't know. And maybe you guys can tell me in the comments below if you have a better idea. But the sense of speed in this game is absolutely amazing, and it still holds up to this day. Even playing it on my Steam Deck on the go, this thing runs great, and it looks really good. And let's talk about the boost, or the nitro. In this game, it actually makes a difference in terms of speed. What I mean by that is I've played so many games over the years, and this is becoming more common in my opinion with more recent racing games that have nitro in them. They really don't add that much boost to the cars. Or the most annoying thing to me is when you get boost in like a Need for Speed game. You hit the boost and it does feel like your car goes a little bit faster, but then every other AI character gets boost the exact same time, and thus it doesn't matter. That is not the case at all with Burnout. The second you get boost, it is double, if not triple, the amount of speed as when you don't use boost. It kind of makes that apparent where the game wants you to constantly be using boost and constantly getting those boost stacks to keep going with getting more takedowns and doing near misses and near crashes and stuff like that in order to gain that boost and keep it going. Because without it, the game slows down tremendously, and you do feel a huge difference, which tells you this game is meant to be going as fast as possible. You do gain boost, like I said already, by heading into oncoming traffic, performing near misses, drifting, and catching some air off some jumps. But obviously, the easiest way is to destroy other players with getting a takedown. As soon as you take down somebody, your boost meter fully fills up and also adds a stack onto it to make it even longer. Super cool. It's a really fun little mini game they added basically into every race, where no matter what you're doing, you can always try to get as many of those boost stacks as possible to keep the momentum going. And talking about the performance, the graphics in the destruction physics, they still are really good even to this day. This came out in 2004, by the way. And you look at some of the games that came out around then, like GTA is a huge game, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing game, GTA San Andreas, but looking at its graphics compared to this, they almost look like it's a different generation. It really does. They did an absolutely amazing job with the destruction physics, with the car physics, and I love how over time, especially in road rage mode, when you crash, the more you crash, the more damage is actually shown on the vehicle over time. It does remind me of the early Flatout games. Flatout 2, for instance, had really amazing car destruction physics, and I really do feel Criterion took a page out of their playbook, and it shows, and it still holds up to this day. So for a PS2 game back in its prime, it's amazing that it holds up to this day and how good this game still looks. The last little thing I want to talk about, which I think is really underrated, is the amazing soundtrack built into this game. As you guys know, today we don't really need these licensed tracks to be in video games because everybody has Spotify at their fingertips, or they can basically install music of their own on their PlayStation or on their Xbox, and they can listen to that while playing their games. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for a studio to pay a ton of money to get copyrights for said copyrighted music. But it still has that little charm of going back to an old game like this and hearing this licensed music and kind of seeing where your music taste maybe came from as a kid, if you did play this as a kid. And that definitely was the case for me. This game has one of the best soundtracks, and I still listen to most of these bands to this day. I might be dating myself here, but it includes bands such as New Found Glory, Yellow Card, Reggie and the Full Effect, 18 Visions, My Chemical Romance, Jimmy Eat World, Autopilot Off, Rise Against, Fall Out Boy, and Finger 11, just to name a few. That's not even all of them. There's so many tracks in this game, and the Burnout series became pretty famous for its soundtrack over time, but Burnout 3 by far was the first one to implement like that perfect mix of pop punk, hard rock, alternative, and some hip hop here and there. And they just did an amazing job with that. And I think a lot of games kind of took inspiration from it as well. You started seeing it in games like Madden, for instance, during the loading screens, had some really interesting in-game soundtracks that fit pretty well for that era. And I kind of miss it. I really do. But again, I understand why they don't do this anymore. It's just kind of cool and nostalgic to go back and listen to these old bands and be like, dude, I have that on my phone today. Like, I still listen to that song. And seeing it in the background of the game by default is just something else. So let's move into the cons. I promise I don't have very many, but again, these are just some things I've noticed coming back to this game as an adult and playing it and looking for certain things that I feel could be improved if they were to make a new Burnout game, which I'm still crossing my fingers. I hope they do. But my first thing is that sometimes the oncoming traffic is really hard to see when playing on a newer LCD display. And I want to say this off the bat. This game, in my opinion, actually looked better playing with an old CRT, those old tube TVs. I don't necessarily know why. It might, again, have to do with the motion blur or something like that. But this game still looks great, but it does not hold a candle to what it looked like originally on the TVs it was meant or made for. And I think it comes back to that as well. As a kid, I don't remember having this issue where I would be on the oncoming traffic. And to this day, I don't, like 90% of the time, I cannot see the car coming and I run head on with vehicles. It happens so often, which I don't remember that ever happening as a kid. And I think that has to do with these new LCD displays just can't hold a candle to those CRT TVs when it comes to this type of gameplay. There isn't much customization when it comes to the vehicles either. You can change the color, which is nice. But I do wish you could add decals and stuff you could, like maybe in Need for Speed Underground 2. Like, it doesn't have to be that much customization, but I would like to change the spoilers or change maybe a body kit or something. Would have been really cool to see. And again, that would be really cool to see if they were to make a new Burnout. The AI has insane amounts of catch-up, which if you don't know what that is, in racing games, it's pretty common to have some type of almost a cheat code, if you will, for the AI, where if they get way behind you, they are able to speed up to essentially unrealistic speeds to get up to a point where they can still be a threat if you were to crash. But, which is fine, and in my opinion, that is totally fine for the most part, and it makes the games not feel completely boring if you just are a demon at the game and you crash everybody right away. You don't want to be ahead for 5 minutes and not have to really worry about anything for the whole race. So I understand why it's there. However, I think Burnout 3 took it to a little bit too far of a direction where you could be in the lead the entire race for 3 laps, and on that final lap, you could have one little slip up, maybe a tiny crash, and all of a sudden you're back in 4th place. And that's, again, driving absolutely perfect. You're not hitting anything. You're taking all the perfect drifts, getting a ton of air, and you have constant boost the entire time. And you'll still lose the race if you have one little crash. So that is an annoyance. It is frustrating. It's not something that is game breaking or anything, but it is something I noticed. They added this guy called DJ FM, and he can get quite annoying pretty quickly, but they must have known this because they give you the option right in the settings to turn him off, which is kind of funny.
This is Crash FM, home to the infamous underpass and the super fast freeway. Golden City is a great place for racing. Oh yeah, don't forget, they drive on the wrong side of the road. For all your
you need to shut the fuck up.
But it's cool they give you the option, so thank you on that. And it is kind of cool hearing him again. It does bring those nostalgia vibes back, and he's kind of the narrator for the game to let you know some tips and tricks of how to get better and what to do throughout your world tour. But again, he gets really annoying really fast, and it's really annoying when he cuts off halfway through a song that you're jamming out to tell you something about like a new race is unlocked. Like, dude, I don't care. So yeah, it's kind of cool you can turn him off. I would have loved to see weather effects and night driving in Burnout 3. It's kind of a shame neither one of those things are here, but again, that could just be the limitations of the time, and I totally get that. So in a new Burnout, it would be really cool to see some rain effects, thunderstorm effects, snow maybe, and of course, night driving is always fun in those kind of games. The Need for Speed Heat had an amazing night mode, which I loved playing, and I loved seeing the neon lights of the city at night, and the cool car effects too, of course. So if they were to make a new Burnout and add that stuff, that would just be the cherry on top. And lastly, I wish they would have had some type of replay mode that was implemented in the game so you could replay old races and maybe some cool records you may have broken and stuff like that just to kind of share it online. Obviously, at the time of this game coming out, the internet wasn't nearly as big and popular as it is today, especially content creation wasn't really as big. So there was no reason to really have a replay system. So again, if they were to make a new Burnout, I would love to see a replay editor of some sort so you could go through and record your favorite races or your favorite road rages and favorite crashes and stuff like that and upload it to like a system server so you could share and rate them with your friends' crashes and all that cool stuff. But that's enough about me and my thoughts. Let's move over to my man, Blue Tag. I've been absolutely loving his content for the past month or so. He is super underrated. He's new to the YouTube scene, so definitely give him a subscribe. I'm going to have a link to his channel right below in the channel description. He makes a lot of retro content on old video games. He kind of relives them from his childhood and also has been taking a lot of recommendations from the community. So if you are a retro gamer or you like seeing these kind of videos, definitely check him out. Give him a sub. I promise you will not be disappointed. So, Blue Tag, take it away.
Hey!
Hey, Blue Tag. So, I got a couple questions for you. First thing is, what is your earliest memory of playing Burnout 3?
I believe I first played this game with friends, and I was extremely disappointed when I went to multiplayer and there was only 3 cars for us to pick. Give me a break, okay? I was a kid and I only wanted to play the multiplayer. The gameplay though got me extremely hooked. So that was one of the first times I actually wished for my friends to go home, just so I could play the campaign by myself.
Yeah, I definitely understand that feeling. It was kind of weird the multiplayer was a little bit lackluster compared to the main single player, but it is what it is. So, what was your favorite part of the game and why?
It is insane how satisfying the gameplay feels in this game. How you can just race, smash cars to the sides, combo boost, and keep boosting non-stop. I don't think any other game has matched this feeling since. Because of the gameplay, my favorite game mode has to be Race. While I do appreciate and see the love everyone has for Crash, for example, I simply didn't have as much fun as I did with Races.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get you. You actually beat me to my next question, which was going to be what's your favorite game mode. Again, as you guys know, and as you know, Blue, mine is Road Rage, but I can definitely understand and respect that you like the racing aspect of the game. And truth be told, it is a racing game, so it's good to hear that there is somebody out there, and there's a lot of people out there that absolutely love the racing aspects of Burnout. So I'm curious, what is your favorite song in the in-game soundtrack?
My favorite song is Between Orpheus by Ash and Breathing by Yellowcard. Of course, not to mention Lazy Generation because that would be way too obvious.
Ooh, amazing choices, amazing choices. And yeah, I mean, they couldn't have picked a better song for the intro to the game. I 100% agree. Now, is there anything that you disliked about the game, and why would that be?
There are things that bother me in the game though, but I believe them to be minor things. For example, how blurry it is 6 feet ahead of you because the game was made for the PS2. Or how slow the game is to show you the cars you earned when you're trying to rush to the next race and keep the adrenaline going. Or how for no reason the DJ stops the song you're listening to make a joke.
For all your highway listening, stay with Crash FM.
Shut the fuck up!
I mean, come on, I'm just trying to vibe here. If Burnout ever comes back, I feel like there's 2 things they need to get right. The gameplay has to be satisfying and it needs to have some character to it. Just like this game is an edgy teenager from the 2000s.
It definitely does sound like we agree on the issues that this game does have and what we would like to see in a future Burnout. So let's just keep crossing our fingers that hopefully that day comes.
Oh, and I'd like to thank Nick for having me. If you haven't subscribed to him, come on, it's your time.
Alright, you're way too calm, my man. I appreciate that. And thank you again, Blue Tag, for joining me on this collab video. Again, give him some love, give him a follow, whatever you guys can do to support him. He is amazing, an amazing content creator, and I cannot wait to see him hit 1 million subs. In the end, Burnout 3 Takedown is an amazing arcade racing experience that anyone who is a fan of the genre should play in their lifetime. Thankfully, even with it being over 18 years since its release, it still gets the praise it deserves, and I know it will continue to deliver fun and exciting gameplay for generations to come. So thank you guys so much for watching our video. Leave a like, share your support as always, subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace. Hey guys, Nick here again. Just wanted to really quick give a huge shout out to my members. That's Bacon Spaceman, Vinny Severiman, and Thrasher the Black Stallion. Thank you guys so much for your amazing support on the channel. It does truly help. And if you would like to be shown at the end of every new upload, just like these fine gentlemen here, just join the memberships right below every new video. You click the little join button there, and for as little as $1, that's right, $1, you can join the Vicarious crowd and help support the channel for all new content. So with that, thank you guys so much for all the love and support. Hope you have a lovely day, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.